Buongiorno a tutte e tutti, è bello vedere questa sala, come dire, piena per questo consueto appuntamento della Lectio Magistralis del Master in Archivistica e Biblioteconomia che ormai va avanti da tantissimi anni e vi ringrazio di essere qui. Ringrazio in primis il nostro ospite, welcome, parlo in italiano così almeno per questa fase. Volevo ringraziare tutti gli ospiti, le istituzioni che hanno accolto il nostro invito, perché è bello, noi come università abbiamo bisogno del territorio, delle istituzioni sul territorio, abbiamo creato e vogliamo continuare a creare una rete sinergica un po' con tutti i partner, perché poi siamo tutti soggetti in causa, abbiamo un unico obiettivo comune. Passatemi il romanticismo, l'amore e la passione per gli archivi e per le biblioteche. Volevo ringraziare gli studenti del master perché senza di loro non ci sarebbe nemmeno una Lectio Magistralis per il master e quindi per la fiducia che ci hanno accordato quando si sono immatricolati l'anno scorso e che ci stanno accordando in questo secondo anno. A dicembre inizieremo le discussioni e ci saluteremo, ma ci rincontreremo. Volevo ringraziare il Dipartimento SAGAS, il direttore, il professor Fulvio Cervini, per la disponibilità all'accoglienza di questa bellissima sala e per, come dire, per accogliere sempre tutto quello che proponiamo. E ultime ma non ultime, volevo ringraziare Valentina Sonzini, Rossana Morriello, a cui dobbiamo, diciamo, la presenza del collega, e quindi grazie per l'impegno e per aver portato il collega qui a Firenze. E volevo ringraziare l'ultima arrivata, cioè proprio 2 giorni fa, l'ultima arrivata, la dottoressa Elena Gonnelli. Come dire, siamo una squadra al femminile, questa cosa mi piace molto. E nulla, io mi taccio qui perché lascio la parola al direttore di dipartimento e poi, anzi, no, l'ultimo ringraziamento, perdonatemi, lo devo fare non per istituzione, ma col cuore, lo devo fare a Michele Casalini, la casa editrice, cioè a Casalini Libri, perché da sempre è stato un partner ed è un partner importantissimo per noi su vari fronti, dall'accoglienza dei tirocinanti ai tesisti, alle collaborazioni che ci sono state in passato col professor Mauro Guerrini, che ha ideato questo master e che quindi ci ha lasciato in eredità diciamo, questo patrimonio, e anche per l'impegno e per la pubblicazione. Alcuni di voi hanno ricevuto, ora arriveranno le altre copie, la pubblicazione della Lectio, che vedete oggi stampata, ma che è disponibile anche in open access, e c'è il link, vi faremo avere ora poi i fogli con il link. Grazie ancora Michele, grazie a tutta Casalini Libri. Grazie.
Grazie Antonia, buongiorno a tutte e tutti, benvenute e benvenuti in questa Aula Magna, in questo palazzo che oggi ospita anche un convegno del Dipartimento di Scienze della Terra, perché ormai ci siamo lanciati, insomma, in una prospettiva decisamente interdipartimentale. No, dico questo anche perché bisogna fare attenzione a non confondere i 2 catering, ecco, quindi andare in quello giusto, ecco, dopo, dico questo. Insomma, perché sono giù. Bisogna fare attenzione, a un certo punto, a non mescolare. Potrebbe essere anche salutare, ma non solo per ragioni alimentari, cioè per ragioni culturali. No, no dico questo perché le biblioteche e i libri sembrano qualcosa di anacronistico, no? in questi tempi. Lo dico con una punta di rammarico, essendo io uno storico dell'arte medievista, cioè tendenzialmente medievista, visto che il Medioevo era sostanzialmente una civiltà del libro, cioè non poteva esserci civiltà senza libri. Oggi sembra se ne possa fare tranquillamente a meno. In realtà i libri e le biblioteche sono quanto mai necessari per resistere alla barbarie, che perlomeno in alcune parti del mondo sembra imperversare. Anche noi siamo sulla buona strada, secondo me, cioè o cattiva strada, a seconda dei punti di vista. Quindi è chiaro che però un tema come quello delle biblioteche oggi deve essere declinato in una chiave contemporanea, ma anche e soprattutto futuribile. Ed è per questo che tra pochi minuti il professor Lo, che ringraziamo, insomma, per la sua disponibilità, una presenza la sua che ci onora particolarmente, ci illuminerà su queste nuove prospettive, queste nuove sfide. Io mi limito soltanto a rilevare la qualità e la propositività di un master che costituisce, diciamo, una delle esperienze più collaudate e significative, ecco, sul piano della formazione nel nostro Dipartimento. È una di quelle cose che stanno proprio nel midollo spinale, insomma, del nostro lavoro di formazione, anche e soprattutto di ricerca, anche per delle ricadute che non sono soltanto didattiche in senso stretto, cioè il fatto che con grande eleganza, come ormai nella tradizione, insomma, di questo master, la Lectio Magistralis sia stata pubblicata, nonché tradotta in italiano. Qui troverete anche il testo integrale, insomma, quello che dirà tra poco il professor Lo. Ecco, questo è sicuramente un punto di forza, insomma, di questo master, perché è un lavoro che va verso quella che oggi noi siamo soliti chiamare disseminazione delle conoscenze, ovvero quella che si chiamava fino all'altro ieri terza missione e adesso si chiama valorizzazione della conoscenza, insomma, o qualcosa del genere, insomma. Come? Public engagement, sì, insomma. Però il public engagement mi suona malissimo, perché mi fanno venire in mente le regole di ingaggio dei mercenari, ecco, quindi io chiamerei un po' un altro modo. Però sì, è un impegno pubblico al quale siamo chiamati tutti, ecco, e non possiamo chiamarcene fuori. E soprattutto adesso, dicevo, che il mondo tutto sembra precipitare verso l'abisso, c'è bisogno anche di un impegno diretto da parte di chi fa ricerca, soprattutto da parte degli umanisti, che mai e poi mai, insomma, dovranno rimanere confinati nel chiuso dei loro spazi di ricerca, delle loro biblioteche, dei loro archivi, dei loro musei, ma dovranno portare queste biblioteche, questi archivi, questi musei al servizio, insomma, della civiltà. Quindi grazie a voi, grazie soprattutto al professor Lo, ma naturalmente grazie anche ai colleghi di Archivistica e Biblioteconomia, insomma, che ancora una volta hanno egregiamente lavorato, onorando a loro volta il nostro Dipartimento. Grazie e buona giornata. Grazie.
Allora, io buongiorno a tutte e a tutti. Intanto mi unisco sicuramente innanzitutto ai ringraziamenti che volevo fare anch'io a Michele Casalini, Barbara Casalini e ai loro collaboratori che ci hanno permesso di avere il testo stampato in una versione a stampa e in una versione digitale, anche in edizione, in versione tradotta in italiano. Quindi curato dal master biennale appunto di secondo livello in archivistica e biblioteconomia dell'Università di Firenze, e con il patrocinio di Associazione Italiana Biblioteche, Associazione Italiana Docenti Universitari di Scienze Archivistiche, Società Italiana di Bibliografia, di Scienze Bibliografiche e Biblioteconomiche e la rivista JLIS. E voglio ringraziare tutti i partner che ci hanno sostenuto, ci sostengono e che ci permettono appunto di diffondere anche in versione a stampa e in versione digitale, che sarà disponibile ad accesso aperto, è già disponibile ad accesso aperto sulla piattaforma Torrossa di Casalini. Avete il link nei fogli che sono stati distribuiti e lo diffonderemo poi sui vari canali digitali. Il tema della Lectio Magistralis di quest'anno è sicuramente uno dei più cruciali in questo momento per le biblioteche, per gli archivi, per le istituzioni culturali in generale e per la nostra vita quotidiana. L'intelligenza artificiale è presente nelle nostre vite quotidianamente, che ce ne rendiamo conto oppure no, l'abbiamo nei nostri telefoni, nelle molte applicazioni, nei molti servizi che utilizziamo, e di conseguenza è un tema che interessa particolarmente le istituzioni che hanno a che fare con i cittadini, con le persone, e che offrono servizi per i cittadini. L'intelligenza artificiale ha un potenziale trasformativo molto importante sui servizi, con potenzialità di valorizzazione dei servizi, di ottimizzazione della gestione di archivi, biblioteche e altre istituzioni culturali e di migliorare l'esperienza degli utenti delle istituzioni culturali, con una serie di criticità, di attenzioni e la necessità di una consapevolezza indispensabile appunto per chi opera nelle istituzioni culturali e per chi fruisce dei servizi culturali. E proprio questo è il focus della Lectio di Leolò, che vediamo dal titolo Artificial Intelligence Literacy and Accountable Judgment, What Libraries Must Teach in an Answer First Word, ovvero literacy che noi traduciamo come alfabetizzazione per l'intelligenza artificiale, giudizio responsabile, cosa le biblioteche devono insegnare nell'era delle risposte immediate. Allora, Leolò lo presento brevemente e ha una lunga esperienza da bibliotecario, attualmente all'Università della Virginia, dove è presidente del sistema bibliotecario di Ateneo, referente del rettore per l'AI, Artificial Intelligence Literacy, e professore di pedagogia nello stesso Ateneo. È stato presidente dell'Association for College and Research Libraries per il mandato 2024-2025 e durante il suo mandato ha istituito la task force dell'associazione sulle competenze relative all'intelligenza artificiale e coordina le attività a livello nazionale che l'associazione conduce per lo sviluppo di competenze sull'intelligenza artificiale per i bibliotecari. Svolge un'intensa attività di consulenza, ha all'attivo molte pubblicazioni sui temi appunto dell'artificial intelligence literacy, dello sviluppo professionale e della didattica innovativa. Gli lascio quindi subito la parola, dicendo anche che alla fine avremo uno spazio per eventuali domande che speriamo insomma certamente nasceranno, perché il tema è comunque molto, si presta ecco, a considerazioni, a domande e a dubbi, proprio per la sua evoluzione e il suo impatto. Ripeto appunto il titolo in italiano, Artificial Intelligence Literacy e giudizio responsabile, cosa le biblioteche devono insegnare nell'era delle risposte immediate.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for the introduction and for the invitation to be here. Thank you, Rosanna, and the University of Florence. It's truly an honor for me to be here to speak with you on a topic that I'm very passionate about. Also, this is my first time in Florence, so it's an added bonus. And another bonus is that a couple of weeks ago is my wedding anniversary with my wife, so I brought her here with me. So thank you for helping me find a really good gift for my wife as well. So thank you. So when you visit somewhere new, usually, and this is what I do, is I try to Google it, right? You want to find out a little bit about the place. But if you have used Google lately, you may have found, closer. If you have used Google lately, you may have found that it's slightly different than before. So if you remember way back, way back, many years ago, that's what Google looked like. You type in something and it just links to websites, to whatever. Then you go there and then you look at those resources and then you find the information that you need, right? But now, if you type in something in Google, let's say, use this example, someone wants to know a little bit about climate policy debates in the US. You type that in, this is what you see. It's an AI overview. It gives you a quote-unquote answer now, instead of, I mean, you do see some links at the bottom, But the first thing most people see now is an answer. Now, how does it come up with that answer? We don't really know. There are some links on the right that will say, well, we use those citations. How do they come up with those citations? We don't really know. So there's a lot of unknown in that answer that people see, that most people who use would take as the answer to their question. Now, there are some questions that have answers, factual answers. If you ask for a date, a number, you may get an answer. But if you ask where to go to eat in Florence, what's the answer? I mean, what's it based on, right? A lot of opinions, a lot of maybe sponsorships. So that is changing the way we look at information nowadays with AI. Now, we're librarians, so we know how to get rid of the AI answer. You just put -AI at the end of your search keywords. You can get rid of that AI overview. But look at it. It still tries to give you an answer, even though, let's say this one, it just pulls from the first website. It's a passage in that website. So it still tries to give you an answer. So in a way, I think a lot of these companies know that, or rather they feel that people just want an answer without spending the time, the effort to go into links, to look into different websites to find the answers for themselves. OpenAI published a paper in September last year. So it's not that long ago, even though in the age of AI, it feels like a lifetime ago now, just 6 months, 6 months ago. So in that paper, they basically share with people how people have been using ChatGPT. Let me know, how many people have used ChatGPT? Can you raise your hand? Many of you have used, at least tried it, right? Use ChatGPT. So this is the percentage of people. The most used cases are practical guidance, as if people ask ChatGPT to teach them something. Like, how do I fix this thing? How do I cook this meal? How do I learn, statistics, for example? You get tutorials. But the number 2 is seeking information. So people are using ChatGPT as if it's a search engine, as if it's Google. It's actually asking to find information for people, which is really not what AI or what ChatGPT was designed for. It's a large language model which predicts the next word, right? So that's already something that's an interesting development, even though you can do web searches now. And the third one is writing. Of course, ChatGPT can write for a lot of people, and a lot of students actually use it to write. A lot of people use it to write emails and other things. So that's kind of not surprising, but it's the second one that I think surprised a lot of people, and it's a very interesting development because it will basically change a lot of the things we do every day, like Googling, like how websites will operate in the future. Because right now, our website on the web depends on traffic, depends on how many people visit their website to make money, basically. In the future, how do they make money if people are not visiting the website? So a lot of people suggest that they may have to buy placement in the AI answer. So that obviously completely changes how we should look at information when we use the web. So basically, we are going from a search first world to an answer first world. In the traditional search, you type in your question, you get your evidence, all these websites or articles, newspapers, and then you develop that answer. From an answer first world, it's generative AI. You put a prompt in, your questions or instruction, you immediately get an answer, and I put it in quote. It's not always the actual answer, but you get a body of text at least. So the new thing to do is not just completely to trust that answer. Our job now is to verify that answer. Basically, we have to go backwards. That's that step that is skipped, looking at evidence, looking at articles, looking at, the sources. That's the part we have to do again, actually, even though we get the answer to begin with. So that will change how libraries work as well. So when students, for example, type in something, they get an answer, they don't know whether that is truly what they can trust. So a librarian's job, in a way, is to teach them how to go backwards, teach them information literacy again, but from an answer-first world. AI, or generative AI, or large language model, like I said earlier, is just a prediction machine, basically, because it's read so many texts, so much that has been written, basically. It can sense a lot of patterns. So if you say the cat sat on, it doesn't know what it's sitting on or what it's sat on. So it just matched the probability. A cat sat on a mat, that's very likely because a lot of people write that. So 80% probability. And then maybe a hat, maybe a map, those are a lot lower probability. They could happen. So that's how these LLMs predict the answer. So it's based on statistical likelihood. So even if you write something, it's probably true, but not always. So that's the problem with AI that we have to understand. So with that, there are at least 3 modes of failure that we may not actually get what we are asking for. One is the fluency illusion. So AI can write you something that's very polished, very confident, but they have all the wrong facts, or they prioritize, a grammatical perfection. It writes beautifully, but not always factually accurate. Right? That's one thing. Even though it's getting better, but because it's a statistical model, it will never get to 100% based on the current way of doing it. The other second thing is gap filling. Now, we have to tell AI what we want. Now, how often do we lay out everything that we want it to do? So a lot of times when we speak with each other as humans, we get the nuances, we get the context, because we kind of, we know the world, we have all these things. AI doesn't. It doesn't really read our mind. It doesn't really understand the world that way. So that means you have to fill in a lot of gaps, and those gaps can create a misunderstanding too. And the third one is bias and omission. So all these models have scraped the internet to read almost anything they can find on the open web. As you probably know, not everything on the open web is accurate. Not everything that is, is neutral, they're full of biases, and there are a lot of things missing too. Just think about all the things the libraries has that are behind paywalls that these open models cannot get to. In fact, a lot of them are, because they have run out of these open web data, they are approaching us, libraries now, to say, hey, we'll pay you a lot of money to digitize all the things in your archives that have not been digitized. And in return, we have to use them for training our AI models. At my university, at the University of Virginia, we are basically taking the lead and saying no to that, because with archival work, you need provenance, as in you need to trace back to the original source. And if you use the data to train the AI models, you cannot do it at this point. So until they can satisfy that condition, we're basically saying no to the money they will offer us to digitize the process, the resources, until they can prove that provenance. But that's not the main thing of today's topic. But it's something that's happening. They're approaching libraries to basically buy their data now. So in the past, the old bottleneck is discovery. You want to find information, you have to discover them yourself. Now, it gives you the answer. So the new bottleneck is judgment and verification. How can I judge whether to trust this answer, and how do I verify it? So that's something we need to think about moving forward, not just as, librarians, as everyday citizen, that, if you use Google or any of those search engines, that's what you will get. And how do you know that's the truth, right? So what I call this is the AI answer economy. So I wrote a paper on the definition and scoping claims. If you want to read it, you can just scan that QR code and you can get to it. So the AI answer economy is the socio-technical condition in which AI produces answers. It becomes the AI answers become the primary unit of information consumption. It's replacing links as the default path to information. And we're shifting the trust and accountability from source discovery to answer provenance, evidence fit, and correction. I honestly think that this shift will change a lot to how, first of all, how we all live our daily lives, and also to education and research. And libraries, we need to think about how we can help our users, both faculty and students, learn this. So that comes to AI literacy. In the past, libraries, we focus on information literacy when information was really the key thing. But now it becomes, is AI embedded in all these technology and all these things that we use. If you look at library databases, they are kind of similar to Google now, in that not only you go to articles, but they will give you summaries of those articles, and those are so-called the answers. So it's changing everything that we do, even in the academia. So the way I look at AI literacy is the ability to understand, use, and think critically about AI technologies and their impact on society, ethics, and everyday life. So it's very holistic. It's not just about learning how to use AI or learning about or understanding what AI is. It's really how we use it, its impact is on our everyday life, and also all these new ethical questions that may come up. So I look at it as having 5 components. One is technical. You do need to learn a little bit about AI, as well. I just mentioned that AI is a statistical machine, it's prediction. Knowing that can help you understand a lot about why it does certain things and why it doesn't do certain things. So we don't need to be computer scientists, but we should know a little bit about the mechanism. Just like in order to use the internet, we don't need to know everything, but just understand this is how these things are. Second is ethical. With AI, there are going to be a lot of new ethical questions or ethical dilemmas that we had never encountered before. If you think about self-driving cars, for example, if it makes a mistake, whose fault is it, right? And if you do something wrong with AI, or you use the information in a wrong way, and that information is actually wrong, whose fault is it? So there are all these new ethical questions we need to think about. Third is critical thinking. In order to use AI, you do need to apply critical thinking, but a lot of the times people feel that we can just outsource that part to AI. Like I said earlier, the most obvious thing is verification. How do we even know that the AI is giving us what we want? So we need to apply that, and also to able to tell the AI what we want in the first place. Third is practical skills. There are a lot of AI tools out there, and a lot of them are very useful in many ways. Like, I would say ChatGPT is very useful. Claude is another one. They're very general purpose. So in order to use them well, you do need to, learn how to use them, learn the features. And there are a lot of other niche ones too, especially for research. In our libraries, we subscribe to several literature review AI tools. So practical skills is a needed thing to be an AI literate person. You do need to learn how to use the tools that you need to use. And then finally, if we take a step back, AI is going to impact all our lives and the society in many ways. The most immediate one is job displacement. One of our professors at University of Virginia, who was just named Time Magazine's top 100 most influential voices in AI, he really his claims is that in about 18 months to 2 years' times, all the entry-level jobs will be gone. They'll be replaced by AI. Now, I don't think that will be the case, but a lot of the entry-level jobs will change. The new jobs may not appear yet. So that's the part we have to think about, that the really big societal impact of this technology. And also, a lot of people in the US really care about the environmental impact of AI because we're building a lot of data centers. In Virginia, they're building a lot there. So a lot of local communities are facing that. So that's another part of the societal impact we should at least be familiar and be aware of. So that's kind of the macro view of AI. So where is the profession now in libraries? In the US, the Association of Research Libraries has about 130 or so research libraries members. These are the biggest research libraries in America, including the Library of Congress, Harvard, and all the big university libraries. So we polled in the past 3 years or so, a colleague and I have been asking them, how do you feel about AI? What's your perspective on AI? How are you using AI in your libraries? These are library directors. So the latest one we just asked them, these are just quick surveys basically. It was in January 2026, a couple of months, even a month and a half ago. And we've been doing that since 2023, a few months after ChatGPT came out. And this time, 45 library deans and directors responded out of about 120, so about a third. So over 90% have a very or somewhat positive outlook on AI now. It's very more optimistic about its impact on libraries. And there used to be a lot more neutral views, but now it's tiny now. And a lot of them, over a third of them, are actively implementing AI in their libraries' operations. And almost 60% are at least exploring the potential. 0% have no plans. Everybody is thinking about it because it basically is embedded in our lives and in all of the products that we use. And also the use cases too. In the beginning, in 2023-24, a lot of experimentation. People use it to write, to generate text. People were learning about how to prompt, as in how to ask, the AI to do things. So it's really just more like playing with it, just to see what we can do. But now, the latest one, they're sharing, we're using it to generate metadata now. We are, doing archival description, search, discovery. How do we become more productive using AI? So a lot of them are really embedding it into our daily work now. So that's definitely an operational shift. But the key thing is, where do we put our money? Where do we spend our money? So 88% of them are subscribing to some kind of AI tools, and a lot of it, over 86% are spending money on professional development, paying for librarians to take courses, to try things. And many of them are developing new positions. I've seen a lot of AI librarians, AI literacy librarians positions are being posted now, are being hired. And then some also hire consultants and trainers as well. even though there are some new positions, a lot of them also say that they are transitioning existing positions into more AI-focused positions. And I'm definitely, doing the same thing in my library. But when remember, these are library directors that we polled. So we asked them, how do your staff, your librarians, or other staff feel about AI? And that's a whole spectrum. Some are curious, some want to use it, some are experimenting with it. A lot of them are very anxious about it. They are worried about the technology replacing them. They're worried that they don't know enough about the technology to be helpful to the users. So that's definitely some tension exists. A lot of them are actually really critical of the technology. But at the same time, they can see that it is, happening. It is being used by our students, our faculty. So in a way, it is our responsibility to learn it, to be able to work with our users. So we'll ask the directors, what do you need now? And a lot of people just want, can you show me examples of implemented strategies? There's no playbook, no rules right now. Nobody has seen how, it could, what are the best practices? So, and we're all exploring this, at the same time. So people say, can you show me some examples what other people are doing that have been successful? A lot of them ask for policy and governance template. Even though I don't believe that we should have very strict policies at this point, a lot of people ask for that. They want to be told, just tell me what to do. I'm too tired of figuring this out myself. Also, culture change. This technology, just like previous technology, I think it's more than previous technology. It's more than just digital transformation because it's happening so fast and people cannot adapt to it as quickly. So that culture change part is going to be a key thing for us to move forward. You saw that wide spectrum of perspective on AI. A lot of people still don't want to use it within any organizations really. So how do we solve that? So that was about library directors and leaders. But personally, I have done 3 national surveys on how library workers are actually using AI and viewing AI. So I've done one in the summer of 2023. ChatGPT came out in November 22. So that was a few months after that. And then one each summer. And the last one was summer 2025. Obviously, the first summer was very uncertain. People are just not sure about it. A lot of people felt that it's probably just a fad. It will not become, a major thing. And then in 2024, a lot of people are pivoting. They're like, okay, we need to learn this. We need to experiment. And the most recent one, a lot of people are using it. So in 2023, about 41% have never used ChatGPT or any AI tools. Now, still a third, about 31% still don't use it. But the people from almost zero of daily use, weekly use to about 20% that people use it on a routine basis. People use it every day. Also, the confidence has risen. We rate them 1 to 5. So 3 is the midpoint. So in 2023, it was below midpoint, people rating their confidence or how familiar they are with AI below that. And then it's gone up, but it's kind of plateauing too. It's not really gone up that much since then, 3.46 or so. One really interesting thing we found is that we thought, okay, if people spend more time on training, let's say they take workshops or webinars and other things, they will increase their confidence or how familiar they are or their AI literacy level, which didn't really happen. The score seems about the same if whether you have taken, training or attended webinars or other things like that. But one thing that really have a strong correlation is that whether they have access to the paid version of these tools. The paid version is they have more features. Usually you can have, you can use it more. And generally, I mean, now it's a little bit different, but definitely back then you have access to a more sophisticated model and you can get better output that way. That actually have a lot higher correlation to people's confidence and their skills than training. Now, it doesn't mean that just because you have access to it, that will, you immediately become better. It's mostly because people who pay for it or have access to it are generally more interested in it to begin with, and they're just more engaged with it to begin with. So we don't know that. But that definitely, it's a interesting finding. And but now a lot of institutions are paying for it, so it's not people paying out of their own pocket for these tools, and still the correlation is still there. How are they using it though? I think 80% or more, even more, are what I call optimizing, as in they're trying to make their current work a little bit easier. They want to make it a little bit faster. For example, you can summarize something really fast, or you can do Excel really fast, or cleaning metadata. That's, I would say, optimizing it. But I think in the future, the key or the most useful thing about AI is not just optimizing, it's really about transforming, as in you can do something that you could not even think about doing before, developing new services and new workflows, and to think about how you actually change the work you do, not just do it a little bit faster. So some people are experimenting with it, but mostly it's still, we are in that stage where we're just trying to make to be a little bit more productive. Now, I talked about culture change. How do we help people learn how to use AI or just be more engaged with it so that they understand it a little bit better? There are some barriers. One I mentioned is the access part, where if you have access to the more high quality tools, they're a little bit easier, but it costs money. Not everybody or not every institution or every libraries can pay for it for their staff, and not everybody wants to pay out of their own pocket. So that may become a digital divide. The time deficit, we are all very busy people. How do you even find time to learn this new thing? So that's another common complaint or barriers to learning learning AI. And also institutional inertia. Not every leader believes in it either. We polled the ARL directors, 45 responded. I would say those are the 1/3 of the library directors who are a little bit more engaged or more interested in AI. So what about the other 2/3, right? So there are still a lot of skepticism in some ways. And we asked them, what do you need then? A lot of people they have recognized that we need practice, basically, to learn this thing. We cannot just sit in a lecture or webinar and learn it that way. We can understand a little bit, but in order to actually learn how to use it, we need hands-on live sessions. And that's a training disconnect, because there aren't that many available still. And also, there's a bit of a stigma in even admitting that you use AI in your workplace. A lot of people worry that if they admit that they use AI, other people will think less of them. There are actually a lot of, there are several studies now sharing that, okay, if you are not even a student or librarian, you're a researcher, you submit an article to a journal, for example, and they require you to disclose that you have used AI. Those that disclose AI gets rejected a lot more than those that did not, even though there's no way to even tell. So almost like there's this disincentive for being honest that way, because you don't even know the reviewers or the editors, how they feel about AI. So that's a big problem we need to solve. And the same in the workplace. A lot of people feel like, well, if I tell my people, my peers, my colleagues that I use AI, they think that I'm just cutting corners or I'm not being professional. So that culture change part, it would take time. So next frontier, it was fear, and now it's optimization. I hope that moving forward, we can think about transformation, to really think about actually using it properly to make our work even different, not just slightly faster. So I talked about, the overview, where people are in our profession, and we understand a little bit about what people actually want in order for them to learn. So let's see how that works. At my previous place, before I joined the University of Virginia, I was at the University of New Mexico, and I developed 2 training programs there. One was in 2023. It's a pilot program for just librarians. And then we've done several iterations of it. And the last one I did was in 2025 with academic advisors, 2 slightly different target groups. The key was to learn from that, the surveys, as in they don't want just a webinar or just a one shot, lecture. They want hands-on learning. They would learn differently. People don't have a lot of time on their hands. So we need to apply adult learning principles to help them learn. So we set up a cohort-based program, basically. The first one, the pilot one, was 12 weeks in the summer. So we get 10 people from my libraries to volunteer. We pay for at the time it was called GPT-4, is the paid version, ChatGPT. And then we asked him to develop a project that's directly related to their actual work. So they are using it to do work, so not taking extra time out to do something. And we'll meet every other week to almost like a community of practice, where we share what we have done, what we have learned, all the challenges, all the lessons, all the tips, for example. And then at the end, I just asked them, put together a presentation to showcase what you have done, to share with the rest of the university, so other people can learn from us as well. So that was the pilot. It went very well. And then after that, every summer, we actually have other people do similar things for teaching faculty, for researchers, and for, there's another one to develop open educational resources using AI. It's a cohort. All these are cohort-based, hands-on programs. And the last one I did was only 8 weeks with academic advisors. So, like I mentioned, community of practice is really important for a group to learn together, so they can share what they have gone through. Is to normalize saying that I don't know, I'm not certain about this, or I have tried this thing. It's actually quite easy to do, and AI has helped me a lot. Learn from the surveys that having access to higher quality tools, like at the time it's called GPT-4, is actually really important. And also because GPT or the paid version let you turn off that option for them to use your input as training data. And I think that's really important to a lot of us. And then adult learning principles, self-directed, problem-centered kind of work, so that they actually use AI to solve a problem in their own work. So the starting line was pretty low. The same questions we asked them before and then after the program, same questions that we use in the national survey. Some of them just say, I'm a complete and utter noob, as in I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about AI to begin with. So a lot of people are just from like a really beginner's level to try this thing. And afterwards, a huge growth. and they just based on the pre and post surveys that they have learned a lot through the entire program, and they have gained a lot more confidence, and overall literacy have grown as well, and they are a lot more familiar with the tools. Most importantly is that they just feel comfortable using AI, comfortable talking about using AI. The last one, they all said, all the advisors intend to keep using AI afterwards. The purpose of this is not just to train these 10 or 15 people, it's to train the trainer kind of approach, so that these advisors can go back to their different departments and talk with their colleagues in the department and say, I have used AI to do this. That's the reason we asked them to to do a presentation afterwards to show people what they have done, and then open up new conversations with their colleagues to say, it's not a bad thing to try AI. Yeah, there are a lot of things you need to pay attention to, but it's actually it's useful to engage with this technology and not be either scared of it or just be or hate it. A lot of people use that word. They don't like the technology. But I feel like if you want to criticize the technology, it helps if you're engaged with it and learn a little bit more. That would make your criticism a lot stronger as well. There are some friction points, reality checks, from these programs. Prompt engineering takes time to learn, as in how do you interact with AI? Because, like I said, it doesn't read your mind. How do you articulate what you need from the AI? And then technical limits, now is not so much, but in the beginning, token limits was a thing where you can only type in so much, you only give you so much. But now I think that promise comes off. Hallucinations, as in it gives you wrong or inaccurate answers, that is still true. So that's something we need to pay attention to. So the verdict is, this kind of program, this kind of training cohort program is actually scalable, because we are training the trainers, and we have new iterations of these programs led by people who have gone through this program. So I think this could work in many places. But I think the key factors in that, these are problem-centered learning. You use AI to solve this, a real thing. You pay for the access to have high-quality models and community support. It normalizes failure a lot of the times. We don't know what we're doing. We just want to try it. We talk with each other. We learn from each other. So with that, some of the things that have been useful during these cohort programs. Like I mentioned, you need to put in something, prompt the AI, and the AI processes it. It gives you an output, you evaluate it, and then you iterate to make sure that you get what you want. So I mentioned, prompting is actually difficult. How do I even prompt it, or how do I evaluate it? So I developed 2 frameworks for that. They're pretty simple. One is called the CLEAR prompting framework. CLEAR stands for concise, logical, explicit, adaptive, reflective. Being concise, just being articulate. Don't use, unnecessary words. At the time, especially because tokens was an issue where you don't want to type in too many words. Now it's less of a problem. Logical, you want to, logically lay out what you want so that it doesn't confuse the AI. Explicit, like I say, it doesn't read your mind. If you want it in a format that is in a table format, you have to tell it. If you want it in a writing form that is in a professional way versus a conversational way, you have to tell it. So being explicit in what you want, or you want it to act as a professor of economics to look at this program, you have to let it know. Being adaptive is when you look at the output, you don't just take it right there, because rarely you get something exactly what you want. It's being adaptive to iterate and reflective. Treat each interaction as a learning experience to think about how you want to, what are you delegating to AI, and how do you even use it in the future. So I'm not going to go over all of that, but if you want to read the paper, feel free to scan this QR code. It's been used in, I think, over 150 LibGuides in America, so people are using it. And I'm actually in the process of updating it to maybe a clear 2.0 for the kind of newer AI models now. So that's prompting. Evaluating, like I said, we're in the answer first world now. We look at the answer first, and then we need to go backwards. So it's slightly different than before. So in a way, you need to classify what kind of answer is this. Is it a factual answer? Does it give me like a date or a name that I can just verify very easily? Or is it a interpretive answer that AI is interpreting something for me? Or is it like a generation thing? I ask it to write a email for me, it generates something. Or is it like a strategic thing? It can almost act as an advisor to recommend something for me to do. So you kind of need to think about how do you classify each of those, and then you can think about how to verify those. And then you care. That's the care frame is C-A-R-E. A is assess it. Is it logical? What is missing? Are there biases in this answer? And then with that, you think about reviewing it. That's the verification part where libraries or librarians should, play a big part in helping people learn how to verify things. And then with that, now you can enhance it. Don't just use that answer. If you want to write something, you rewrite it using some of the things you have learned. So not going to go through all of that today, but this is just published in January. If you feel like you want that, feel free to scan it, but you can always just email me. I'm happy to share it with you. And you'll probably get this slide deck too, so you'll have these links with you. So from prompting to judgment, this is the kind of the full circle. You use whatever framework you can use CLIA to construct the prompt, and the AI generates the output. You use something like CARE to evaluate the output, and then you decide whether to use, revise, or reject it. We always iterate. So we kind of want to treat AI interaction as an inquiry. Just assume that AI output is the starting point, not an endpoint. So we use human judgment as the element that turns AI capability into reliable results. Now, neither of these guarantees success, but that kind of practices kind of catches failures before they spread. So after all of that, I'll say there are 3 priorities for leaders and educators. One, it is providing access, whether it's just regular AI or kind of higher versions, more sophistication. Now it's getting a little bit cheaper, and a lot of institutions are providing that, and we should maybe advocate for those kind of access. I would say in addition, not just replace, in addition to some webinars and one-shots, find cohort-based practice, hands-on practice training, so that people can learn that way, learn by doing, basically, and establish shared norms. Some of these frameworks are nice because you have a shared set of kind of principles or language to use when we want to, use AI, or even teach our students to use AI. I think these priorities reinforce each other. Access without learning produces uneven experimentation. Learning without access stays theoretical. And both without norms leave people unsure how to apply what they know. So these are the three things I think people should pay attention to, especially the people in leadership position. So in the answer first world, trust is scarce. Answers are abundant now. Verified and honestly presented answers are not. So libraries and archives have always built trust through collections, guidance, and information environments that support confident inquiry. So AI literacy is how the profession responds. So thank you very much for listening.
Allora, grazie per l'interessantissima lezione. Direi che lasciamo spazio a questo punto a domande, considerazioni, riflessioni. Se non ce ne, se, altrimenti apro io con una... Rompo il ghiaccio con una domanda, io chiedendo come insomma questa AI literacy, diciamo, le tematiche dell'intelligenza artificiale si inseriscono nella formazione universitaria per i bibliotecari negli Stati Uniti. So I'm asking how the AI literacy or knowledge about AI is entering education, academic education, or other kind of education for librarians in the United States, in your country.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And there are, I think, multi parts to that. One is, like I showed earlier, there are changing viewpoints of AI and and then AI literacy. So in the US, the largest library association is the Association of College and Research Libraries. And I was the president last year. So we set up a task force to develop a set of AI competencies for library workers, largely based on my AI literacy framework, but also we put in different other resources as well. And that's online now, and you can definitely share that link. And so there is a set of competencies that we believe library workers should possess in the age of AI. Now, obviously, AI keep changing, so that will change as well. But the purpose of that is so that we can develop training programs to teach those things, and not just people who are already in the profession, but also library science programs for students as well. So that's one part that we're already doing. Another trend in the US with library science programs and library school is that they are merging with different departments in the university. So even before now, a lot of the library science programs have become information science program or information studies program in the US, where they combine with a little bit of maybe data science or computer science. But now there's another, in the last year or so, there's another change at University of North Carolina. They have one of the oldest library science program. I think they're merging with computer science and I think data science to become a school of AI, basically. The San Jose State University, one of the largest library science program, is forming it's going to be under a new college or new school. I think it's called AI, Data and Society. So a lot of these library science programs are actually becoming part of this larger AI umbrella. So I can see that being an important part of any library science program in the future. And I work with some library science professors in the US, and a lot of people are, students as well, are also, thinking about, okay, what are some of the skill sets that we will need in the future? So we don't know. That's the thing. Even employers don't know. But we're trying to figure that out. And I think probably a productive way it is for all of us to be engaged with the technology, so we can, and people from different perspectives can develop the knowledge and skills necessary for that. So that's why I keep pushing for AI literacy. Even if you don't like the technology, you can criticize it better if you know a little bit more about it.
Thank you. I think we are okay.
Buongiorno, grazie per questa interessantissima lezione che ovviamente ci fa sentire sempre un po' l'uomo della strada, almeno per quanto mi riguarda, perché sono tematiche estremamente nuove, soprattutto nel nostro settore. La mia era una domanda ampia, nel senso 10-15 anni fa, 20 anni fa parlavamo del web semantico, e questo approccio diverso rispetto alla gestione dei dati che in termini di grandi masse di dati ci toccava anche un po' noi come archivisti, come archivi e come biblioteche, diciamo. Quindi c'era questa idea di poter usufruire in modo diverso e leggere in un modo diverso una complessità di dati che dal punto di vista analogico poteva, con un approccio analogico poteva essere in quel momento, diciamo, visto quasi come sminuente, no? Più piccolo. Ecco, dal web semantico all'applicazione dell'intelligenza artificiale, ripeto, domanda da uomo qualunque, diciamo uomo della strada, il passo è stato ampio, ma è stata un'evoluzione di approccio a questo modo di vedere questa gestione dei dati, diciamo, questa lettura di grandi dati. Grazie.
Okay, I will try to translate. She was talking about the semantic web, and when 10 years ago semantic web was theorized, we started to think about data and management of data that couldn't be made by humans, analogic, but with machines. And now we talk about artificial intelligence. So she's asking if there was an evolution about data. It's really an evolution, if I can understand.
Yeah.
What is changed?
Yeah, so that's a really good point in that. So we recently had a lecture in my library about where scholarly communication is heading, because AI is going to change how we communicate, not just within ourselves, but in the larger research ecosystem. Right now, researchers write articles, and then the publishers publish them for people to read, right? In the future, it's very likely that researchers will be using AI agents to do research for them, for the most part. That means that the articles should be read by machines and not humans. So this is something we're actually thinking about. I don't know the answer of any of that. We're thinking about how do we even manage that transition, in that a lot of the articles will have to be machine readable, or even be machine readable first and then translated into human readable format. So that's something to think about from the library's perspective. What is the collections anymore? And also, if AI can produce answers or things, any kind of a book in 20 minutes, what do we collect? What do people need? So I think that mindset will have to change in a way that nobody knows how yet. But that's the transformation part I was talking about, not just to make writing a paper faster or publishing it faster, but completely transforming it in many ways. One of our professors gave that talk in the library in basically laying out how research is going to be done by AI and autonomous AI. And it seems very possible. And also, I am on quite a few of these advisory boards for large publishers. They are all changing into AI companies. They are, in a way, either licensing their content to Google or OpenAI, or maybe a bigger one may license content from other publishers so that they all own the content, in that, you use that thing to do your research. If that's the case, where is the library in that circle? Do they even need us anymore, right? So there are a lot of things to think about when you just ask a question about whether data is, is it for machines or for humans, or how do we configure that? So many questions that I don't have answers for yet. I think we're all trying to figure out. And I think a lot of people are really scared. If you look at the publishers, they are very scared because they're not competing with other publishers. They're competing with the big tech companies now. And I look at from the library's perspective, do we even survive that? If a publisher, or a researcher can just use this AI model and do everything on their, through that, why do they need the libraries? What is our value? What can we provide? So I don't know yet. So we're still trying to figure that out.
Sì, sicuramente uno dei punti centrali, no? Il passaggio dal web semantico, che nasceva con l'idea di un web libero, quello di Tim Berners-Lee, a dati che sono sempre di più di proprietà privata, gestiti da poche big tech, con il ruolo delle biblioteche, degli archivi, un po' da vedere. Ecco. Ci sono altre domande, riflessioni, considerazioni? Laggiù. Venite qua così vi vedono anche. Sì, sì.
Hi, and thank you very much for the lecture. It's very, very interesting and blow mind. So it's interesting. And I think about, because I'm a librarian and I'm a trainer, I train the students for information literacy and the importance of the sources and so on. And my question is, it's a complete change of mindset. So the focus is on evaluation and not to searching. But we usually teach how to search, how to give references and so on. But now the point is evaluation. And I have already built my critical thinking. So I can evaluate something and I can see if it's good or not. And I question some of the issue that an AI gave to me. So my question is how to build this kind of critical thinking in the students that probably they don't know yet. And I think the students of university, but I think also I have a son who is in the secondary school. And the history Italian teacher keep asking them, the students, to write essay, but it's completely useless now because they can ask AI and they produce something and they don't have the possibility to evaluate if it's good or not because they are secondary school students. And if this process can be, I think it's could be the beginning could be in the school and arrive at the university. But now we have university students with this kind of issue. So I don't know if in USA there is a different kind of, and they start from school this kind of literacy.
Thank you for that question. And that's the $1 million question that so many people try to figure out. I absolutely agree with you that we have developed the skill set that we can use AI in a way that is actually really powerful. But especially kids growing up, they need to learn those things. The question is how, right? So that's two schools of thoughts. One is get rid of the technology in the classroom, make them do everything by hand. I don't know if that would be the way for everything. I think maybe in some cases that may be needed. But I think the longer term thing is to think about what are the actual skill set that they need to develop and how to assess those skill sets. Because in the past, writing is a fantastic way to demonstrate understanding and communications. You articulate, you formulate problems, questions, and all that. You can demonstrate it through your writing. But now all of a sudden, like you said, the writing can be done by AI. So how do you assess all these things that you're supposed to assess through writing? Nobody knows yet. But I feel like AI at this point is such at the beginning stage where if you compare it to the internet, it's like using the phone as a dial-up modem. If anybody remembers, back then, it's really, really the beginning stage. I think if it keeps improving at this rate, at certain points, you can probably do things that we cannot imagine today, including how to, not necessarily control, but kind of help students learn in a way that it would not give people the answer, right? But right now, the disruption is very real, as in these several years, students have been, I would say they probably have gotten the raw deal, as in they're not learning because they can do this as a shortcut. So as a short-term solutions, I don't mind, the teacher saying, you have to write everything in class for now until we figure this out. But at the same time, I also admire and I like a lot of the teachers actually using AI, asking students to use AI to do something and then assess it in a different way. So people are experimenting and learning from it, just like those cohort training, that people are trying new things. So in the next semester at my university, I will be teaching a class for thinking in the age of AI. Not to teach them AI literacy even, is I want them to use AI as an object, as in what are some of the thinking I'm delegating to AI, so that you learn, okay, actually AI is doing all these things for me. What have I done as a student? Because at my university, a lot of the students are both worried about not knowing AI, that they cannot get jobs, and also they are missing out on the skills they're supposed to gain if they use AI in a way that they're not supposed to. So I think if we do more of these kind of reflection, almost like, oh, what am I using AI for? Can I not use AI for this? Or how can I gain more from this kind of, experience? People can maybe use that kind of findings to develop the learning or the teaching that they need. Now, at the same time, I think there's a lot of potential in AI in learning, because I feel like AI can personalize the learning for people where a teacher, teaching 30 students cannot do. I remember I'll just share a quick story. When I was 10 years old, I was in Hong Kong. I was in a science class, and the teacher was doing chemistry experiments in the classroom. And I was very shy. I didn't want to ask a question, but I was really curious. How come all these chemical reactions did not react with the glass container, the test tube, and all of that? I didn't know why. And I realized, okay, I raised my hand, asked the question. The teacher, maybe he was in a bad mood. Maybe he thought it was a stupid question. That was a stupid question because it's glass. I was traumatized. And I never like asking questions. And when ChatGPT came out, I remember that. And I asked ChatGPT that question, and it answered me. And I was like, finally, I understood it. And then I asked, hey, ChatGPT, can you explain it to me like I'm a 10-year-old who likes Spider-Man? And it did. I was like, this is the power of AI in teaching and learning. So I do see a lot of potential in that. We just have to figure out how to assess the learning. So you ask a fantastic question that maybe you can figure it out for us. Try new things and then let us know how that works. I mean, you need to share, basically. Yeah, so thank you.
ChatGPT is also very kind in answering. There was also, okay, there was a question also, yeah, before.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. I actually had a few notes that I took. I think in my work, I'm more focused on metadata creation, so that really caught my eye. And I think I found very fascinating the shift that you caught during your surveys during the years.
Yeah.
So from prompting to focusing on discovery and search and metadata creation. But I also found fascinating that library staff, for the majority, is only using AI to improve their workflows and not to create new tools.
Yep.
So I have a few ideas why this is happening.
Okay.
But I also want to know your opinion, because I think it's like this barrier exists for a multitude of reasons. May it be lack of staffing, lack of dedicated time, which you also mentioned. I think lack of expertise, and many librarians are afraid that they would not be able to evaluate the output of the AI. Lack of technical expertise a lot. But also I don't know, maybe a reticence to use AI because of its biases and the ethical implication of, using a tool that creates new information based on limited information, information created by a majority of people that may be white people, for example. I hear this a lot in North American librarians. So what I'm wondering is, what do you think could be the tools that librarians could create with AI? And also, how would you go about it if you were a library director of a library of people that were showing you these concerns? How would you go about it?
No, everything you said, I agree with. I think, yeah. So a lot of people are using it in a way that is quite safe at this point to make things a little bit easier for them. Yeah. So I agree with all the reasons you said too, but I'll add maybe one or two other ones that I think are factors in people not wanting to take a lot of risks. One is, the fear of failure, in that it could become embarrassing that you do something, you put it out there, and people say, that's not, right. Or there isn't I talk about culture again, in that librarians, we tend to be a little bit more cautious, right? We want it to be absolutely perfect before we put the thing out there, or we try certain things. And I think with AI, at least I try to say, it doesn't have to be perfect at this point. Try it, and maybe it's 50% ready. Just try it out and then see what happens. And we can, instead of, it's a success or failure, we just, it's version 1.0. We iterate. We keep, trying new, trying to improve it that way. Maybe that will help people be a little bit more, to be a little bit more risk-taking in trying things that have not been done before, because it takes a lot of courage to try things that have not been done before, because the failure rate is high. Most likely it may not work. But with this amazing technology, why not try something? But like you said, there's time, there's, technical skills and all of that. So That's why I feel like these hands-on learning kind of, whether it's cohorts or programs, it's a great way for people to try things that they may, they would not try in the actual work, right? It was like, this is a permission to try something that, you know, your supervisors may not say, oh, I don't know about this, but here is a playground, almost like you have to play in order to learn for something that's new. So yeah, I hope you're trying new things. Okay, good.
Thank you. It has been also a very interesting discussion during this session of question and answers. And it's certainly very important that we find ways also, I mean, I'm thinking of the younger generation, to exercise the muscle of our brain in different ways, but this is really crucial. But my question is, do you see ways, or are there studies where in future the maturity level of AI can be measured depending from the disciplines? Because, I mean, science, hard science, humanities, and so need different approaches. Epistemological aspects are very important for humanities, for example. So how, I mean, are there ways, or, I mean, already envisioned in the future that maturity level can be in some way be measured in the different areas?
Yeah, so I mean, AI is definitely being used differently already in different disciplines. In the sciences, in the STEM field, definitely they're a lot more comfortable using AI and to do that work. But in something like humanities, I think people are still trying to figure out, you know, should we even use it? In what way? Although at my university, we are very big on digital humanities, begin with to use computers to do analysis in the humanities discipline. So there are a lot of our faculty who are already using, not necessarily AI, but in a quantitative way to work with, you know, humanities subjects. So AI is more of an extension of it. But I definitely think that there are, you know, the not necessarily the rate, but the way it will develop for different disciplines. Like even if you just categorize them into three, like humanities, social sciences, and sciences, they will all be very, very different in the way that like you say, you use the word maturity. Yeah, how they actually think about using the technology in the disciplines. And also, you know, just going back to an earlier question, how do students develop the skill set that may be needed for those disciplines? And what are those skill sets moving forward? If you think about, you know, in the past, let's say in mathematics, you do need to, you know, manually do a lot of these calculations, and then eventually that becomes less important. I remember when I learned statistics, I was so bad at it because I always make mistakes. Now I can just, you know, put it in, and as long as I understand the concept, I can do it. So that's different. In humanities, in, let's say in literature, or, you know, you read something, you interpret it through your own brain and all of that, but now AI can do that for you. So what does that leave us in that? What are the breakthroughs in those topics? What are some of the value we bring? I'm not quite, I don't know yet. So we need more humanities faculty to think about this technology moving forward. What can they use that for to develop to break new grounds in the disciplines? And how do students develop those kind of critical thinking skills that will be needed through those disciplines? I think you will see that a lot of, even the tech CEOs agree that in the futures, actually humanities or liberal arts training is going to be even more important than computer science training. That humans will need that kind of judgment and thinking through learning, you know, humanities disciplines in order to function in the AI world. Like I mentioned earlier, verification and critical thinking, human judgment is going to be more important than ever. So, but that means we also need to help the humanities faculty or researchers think about how to move that forward as well. So I don't have an answer for any of these questions, by the way, so.
So I would like to thank you so much for this enlightening lesson, firstly, but I use my phone to write down. I remember that in the first part of the presentation, I think in the initial graph, percentage of AI use for writing showed a sort of decrease. So I would like to ask you, in your opinion, does this mean that there is more conscious use in writing with AI? And do we really need a tool that writes for us? And to read, to have others read documents that we did not write ourselves? And finally, this tool produce real knowledge, or you think that it does, it imitates? And finally, do we need the speed? Do we need to be so fast in producing work, in producing documents, in writing? Thank you.
Yeah, you asked me a lot of questions. I'll see if I can answer any of them, really. So the writing is, I would say once it decreased. So, I imagine, I think you were asking about the OpenAI paper, right? Yes. So top 3 users of OpenAI or ChatGPT, third one is writing. A lot of people use it to write things for them. But those are the 800 million users that it has. So not all of them are students, a lot of just everyday people, basically. So obviously a lot of them use it to write emails and other things. And I think in a lot of cases, it can be very useful, like writing an email that is not, it doesn't have a non-personal thing that you can just, very quickly write it out. I use it, but I never use it as is. It's a first draft that is very quickly done, and I would just, add in my own things and take out things, and then it can save me some time that way. But if you ask about writing for other, purposes where you are trying to demonstrate or you want to show your own thinking, that's a little bit harder to do it like that, unless you keep iterating it, which is fine too. The hardest problem is you stare at a blank page. That some people are good at that. Some people are not as good. Some people are better editors than writers. So I think use it to your strength. I think for people who are not students, people who are not learning, we're not trying to demonstrate our learning. In that, I would say use it in whatever way you feel is, that you can amplify your work, basically. But for students, that's different questions. You're still trying to learn. So I don't have an answer, just like earlier, I don't have an answer of how you can learn in this way, because we haven't figured it out. We've been using writing as a way of learning for so long that now the shift is so sudden that we haven't figured out the next one. But in a way, I honestly think, when people argue that if you write, let's say you submit a journal or submit an article to a journal, you say you should never use AI because it's supposed to be your thinking. I can see some points in that, but at the same time, if we're trying to advance science, let's say, shouldn't the best work just do that? Not necessarily my work, but as long as it is, a useful work for science, we should just put it out there. Yeah, you can disclose it and say, I use AI, but everything will be with AI. I mean, look at Google now. Your Microsoft Word has AI in that. Google has AI in that. So AI is going to be embedded in everything. So how do we even disclose that? I'm not quite sure. It will be a thinking partner. I'd like to use it as a thinking partner. In writing, I still write quite a bit, but I see a lot of the AI in my affecting my writing as well. I don't have an answer, like I said, for a lot of these questions. I'm just sharing some of the things I have been encountering, and I'm kind of like my own practice. And I think even my practice, my thinking keeps changing. The way I think is different than 2 years ago now. So I think it will keep changing as we see new developments and new norms forming that way. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your extraordinary explanation on a very complex theme. Well, one question, which is quite quick, and the other will be more than a question, the need of a clarification that probably I did not understand very well. Well, the question is, do you use and how many are there specific AI-based tools for libraries, like a NIF for the subjects or Transcribus for the, you know, the OCR, the manuscript recognition? In your experience, because I don't have much experience about that. The other thing, I was quite, struck and interested about your reflection on the importance of the context to avoid mistakes. And I was struck on when you said that your institution is refusing to give the company the data of the archives, because probably this is something that I did not understand very well, because you think that there is the technology is not ready to give to treat these data in a proper way. But if you can better explain this point.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I'll be happy to. Thank you for those two questions. One is a lot of libraries are experimenting with AI tools in different ways, OCR and other things. And a lot of our vendors, our current vendors, are developing products using AI. For example, I think JSTOR has one that will help libraries do transcriptions, actually, like we just said, OCR. And we recently, at my own university libraries, we tested all the general purpose models like Gemini, Claude, Copilot, ChatGPT, to see which one does OCR the best. There's one clear winner. You can read the blog. No, it's Gemini. Gemini was the best one, easily the best one. But the best one right now, 2 weeks later, who knows? Right. So we keep testing, and there are other literature review products and other things that we will try. But even publishers have their own, like Elsevier has their own kind of AI thing that are pushing, and other publishers as well. So experimenting. Second question, this is really important, in that AI companies are approaching libraries to, in a way, use digitization as a bait to buy our data, right? These are the things we have not had time or the money to digitize yet. These may be letters that were donated to us, documents or papers, very unique items that may be very useful for training purposes. However, if you do AI model training, general purpose training model, in that the knowledge is absorbed into the model. It's like adding salt to a dish. You cannot take the salt out anymore. It's baked in there. When the answer comes, it may give you the accurate information, or it may not. But even if it does give you the accurate information that this letter says this, it cannot be traced back to that letter in the archive. That's the biggest question. That's the biggest issue. You cannot. They cannot do it. They cannot do it at this point. In the future, probably. But there's another way, in that we don't sell them the data to train the model. So the thing, the letter is not baked into the model, but they can use the model to retrieve it from our database. That is okay. Because it can go back to the database and get this specific item level provenance. And that's what we care about. So until the model can do that, we don't sell it for training purposes. That's really difficult because when they dangle a lot of money in front of us, say, well, how do you digitize these things? How do we say no? So that's why we put out the UVA archival AI protocol, so that it can be a shared protocol for all archives and libraries. People are free to adopt it. I'll be happy to share the link. It's Creative Commons free. So you can use it and basically say, we don't do this. These are the three things. These are three conditions. Unless you can meet these, we don't give you that data for that purpose. And one of the things is separate digitization from training purposes. You can pay us to digitize. Thank you. We'll take that, but not for that. So please email me. I'll share that link with you. Take a look at that, and I think. It's generated a lot of interest. We just put it out. A lot of people are interested, and that's why we make it very easy to adopt. You just use it and then go from there. So thank you for asking the question. We're very passionate about that archival AI protocol.
Bene, grazie per questo anche, come dire, non dico intenso, però è molto molto interessante dibattito che si è sviluppato. A questo punto, come è tradizione del nostro master, chiederei Valentina e Elena dove sono, venite qui, così almeno ci fa piacere avervi qui, a nome di tutte e quattro vi invitiamo ad un piccolo momento conviviale che si terrà a piano terra, perché ci fa piacere brindare tutti insieme in onore del collega e avere un attimo poi di, come dire, di allegria. Bene, quindi ci vediamo al piano di sotto e grazie ancora per essere stati con noi e grazie a voi tutte e grazie a Leo.